this is about the time. I don't remember what day it is. Um, I don't have anything around me. This is day. I'll put it there when I figure it out during editing. But anyway, I do know that it's 30 something. And this is around the time when I started getting more serious about my finances. And because I knew what I wanted it to look like, I was not happy where things were, and I was the only one that could fix that. Now, what happened was I ended up in a medical crisis, which really sparked this because it was a real eye opener when this happened to me. I became ill, did not know why I was ill. I was in my late 20s. I was 29 when I started feeling the symptoms. And I was 30 years old when it really, really hit. It really, really hit. Now, if you remember in another video, I talked about when I had a hysterectomy, and this was the emergency that I had. I'm going to link that video because you can go back and watch what happened with all of that. But this video, I'm mainly going to talk about my finances. I was not happy the way things were going. I had a significant amount of money saved up. And the illness that I was experiencing, it took all of it. And as it got closer and closer and closer time for them to do surgery, I say within the last 5 months before I had surgery, none of the pain meds worked at all. I stopped taking them after like 3 days. If they hadn't kicked in to do anything to help me, it was a no-go. After 3 days, it should be in my system by then. Um, they just weren't helping. So I just had a whole boatload of meds that I wasn't taking. And so they decided to put me on pain medicine that you prescribe for cancer patients. Well, being that I was not diagnosed with cancer, the insurance refused to pay for it. So it came out of pocket. I remember 12 pills, only 12 pills. Now, 12 pills was over 300 some dollars just for 12 pills. And I'm like, so what does someone who really does have cancer, but they have no insurance, what do they do? And my mind stayed there a lot. It did. It stayed there a lot. Fortunately for me, once the cancer was over, um, they said nothing was cancerous, no cancer cells, no anything, which was beautiful to hear because reproductive cancer runs really great on my mom's side of the family. There's a lot of that. On my dad's side too, but not as prevalent as it is on my mother's side. But anyway, back to my finances. Um, so as you can see, without this being approved by my insurance company, I had to fork out a lot. Now, by the time I got back to work, because I had been out of work since May of that year of 2000 till October. They were actually going to wait and let me complete the year and then let me go back somewhere, during the holidays or right after the holidays in January. But I healed so well that they approved me to be able to go back to work in October. Normally, when someone has a hysterectomy, you can go back to work within 6 to 8 weeks. But I had so many complications. I ended up having 3 surgeries in 3 days. Yeah, that was something else in itself. And so I'm skipping all of that other part with the hysterectomy because you can go back to that video that I told you about. Um, when I went back to work, I only had $4.32 to my name. That's it. When I finally was able to go back to work, that's all I had. $4.32. I had saved up. I am so grateful that I have the mindset to save money, because when I said I had a significant amount, it was enough to do a closing on 2 homes if I wanted to. But by the time this illness kicked in, it had taken over so much of my finances. Now, when I went back to work, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to get out of debt, because by the time everything came in and I went to the accounts services department at the hospital, the insurance took care of a lot. When I say it took care of a lot, because remember, I had 3 surgeries. I was only supposed to do 1, but because of all the complications, I needed 3, and they almost lost me after the first one, which is why they did the 2 other ones. So anyway, back to only had $4.32 to my name. I was like, this is not going to work. This is not sustainable. I need some income. I need some money. Well, I still had my job. And what I did was I made a plan of how I was going to get out of debt. And in my head, because the way I process and calculate things, I was like, 5 years, 7 years at the most. So now, get this total now. It was nearly $40,000 that I had to pay out of my pocket that the insurance did not cover. Yeah, 40,000, because, all right, during that stay, which I don't think I mentioned in the other video, I ended up being in the ICU unit for 7 days, 7 or 8 days, something like that. And then they put me in the oncology area. And then from oncology, I was there for, I'd say, about 3 or 4 days. And then they had me in the post-op wing, not post-op, med-surg wing, for the rest of my time before I went home. And so all of that, yeah, that costed a lot. It did. It costed a lot. So nearly $40,000. So I'm like, I can do anywhere from 10 to 12,000 in a year, because I was looking at how much overtime I could make, and make that up and pay it off. So those debt reduction places where they can help you formulate a plan to get rid of your debt and increase your credit. I went to one of those in my area, and let's just say it didn't work out so well. So I ended up talking to someone, and they said it was going to take me 17 to 20 some years to pay it off. And I was like, not me. And he just looked at me. He said, what do you mean? I'm like, it will never take me that long to pay off that kind of money. And he was like, but you only make such and such amount. And I was like, and he said, well, how long do you think it will take you? I said 5 years or less. He laughed. He laughed. That was not the thing for him to do. He proceeds laughing, and one of his colleagues come by and want to know what the joke was, so he tells him the story, and then they laugh. And I'm like, okay, now that I have both of you here, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to pay everything off, 5 years or less, and when I come back, I'm going to show you everything, all the receipts saying paid in full. Fast forwarding, I did that. And what happened was I learned so many things. When I said I learned a lot of things, I learned so many things. And a lot of people have asked me to do classes or whatever. I am willing to do a pro bono workshop. If someone's doing a conference or something like that, and they just need a pro bono speaker or something like that, if they're willing to pay a stipend, not my cost, but a particular stipend or whatever, because these are things that should be common, but they're not as common, that because a lot of people, they just don't know. And sometimes you need a little bit more kindness when you're already trying to get out of debt and your money is strapped. Sometimes you just need some guidance, and that's pretty much. So, um, anyways, I paid it off 4 years to the day. Yes, Granny did that. 4 years to the day, I paid off nearly $40,000, all of it. And so, right, I remember I was in church. It was in this particular church, the second one, the one that I went to that I was telling y'all about in another video, when I left my family church. And it was the end of the year. We were there for watch night service, one of the famous rituals of the Black church. And they asked for 10 people, 10 or 12. Anyway, it was a few of us, several of us rather, who went up there to give a testimony. It was supposed to be something quick and you sit down. So I decided to be last. I let everybody else go first because I was going to do the quick thing, like he said, and sit down. So my testimony was, I owe no man anything. I am completely out of debt. And I put the mic down and I went to my seat. And everybody jumped up and they was like, and he was like, wait, 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 wait. Come back. What did you just say? So I repeated myself. And so everybody was like, how did you do that? And I was like, I paid the bill. I paid the bills. That's how you get out of debt. You pay the bills. But there are different things that you can do to help you, whereas you pay so much because you're faithful in doing it, they are willing to do other things, reward you for that. And so, yeah, that's how I was able to do it because the way I had calculated it, it was actually going to be up to 7 years. But had I gotten another job, stopped going to school and gotten another job, I would have done it in 5 years exactly. But because I did not do that, and I learned some things, and I was like, I wonder if I do it this many amount of months, if it'll happen again. And it did. Those things, it worked out. They reward you for paying your debts and things off. A lot of people won't tell you that. They'll tell you, no, you don't need to pay this. No, you don't need to pay that. Da 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 da. But there are rewards for integrity. There really are. So that's what worked for me. Yeah. So Granny knows a thing or two about getting out of debt and getting your credit scores up and all of that stuff. Now, that's not what I'm actually going to be teaching, but I do have a master's in business administration, so I do support people with different ways of doing that. I normally do that pro bono. If it gets to the point where people want me to do it a lot, then I may make it a service, but for right now, no. Like if a particular church or a school or something like that, like if a school wants me to come or whatever, you know, high school, college, yeah, you got to pay, but high school, yeah, I don't mind coming in and supporting because the children need to know. I don't like that they're not always prepared to handle life when they come out, and they don't always get the skills that they need. So yes, I am willing to do that. And you can reach me at my email if you're interested. So anyway, yeah, that's my story on how I got out of debt. $40,000 of debt in 4 years. To the day. I did that.